But the reason I ask why this is happening is because we hear a bunch of different reasons from the administration. It doesn't seem like there's anyone settled on one reason. I mean, you just said regime change. Secretary Heggs had said this morning it's not a regime change war.
I think the reason you're hearing so many varied reasons is the varied threats this regime presents.
Kaitlan Collins from CNN absolutely dismantled MAGA Senator Markwayne Mullin the other day. Try saying that 3 times fast. She pressed him hard over the weak and confusing reasoning being used to defend Donald Trump, the so-called dear leader, dragging the United States into yet another potential forever war, this time involving Iran. And Kaitlan Collins didn't stop there. She also had another MAGA politician on her show, Senator Tim Sheehy, who was attempting to defend Trump's actions in the Middle East. We're going to watch clips from that exchange between Tim Sheehy and Kaitlan Collins, and I've got plenty of thoughts to share as well. Trust me, this is one you don't want to miss. Let's get into it together.
Joining me now is a retired Navy SEAL who serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Republican Senator Tim Sheehy is here. And thank you. I mean, when you see what's happening with what Clarissa's reporting, we saw the attacks on the embassy in Riyadh tonight. Are you worried about how much this is expanding throughout the Middle East and what we're seeing and how Iran is retaliating?
Well, of course, we're always going to be worried about the safety of our allies and our servicemen in the region and, of course, all Americans there. The reality, though, is what this illustrates is just the tentacles of the Iranian influence that have been throughout the region, really for thousands of years. I mean, this is Persia at the end of the day, and the history of this region shows that Persia has historically been, the fulcrum of this entire region. And in the last 46 years, unfortunately, that's turned into a theocratic, oppressive, terrorist regime that has been murdering Americans for 46 years. So I think the fact that this conflict that has been going on for a half century is spreading into every neighboring country is pretty much what everyone expected. Most of the Gulf state allies and our allies in the region, like Jordan, like Saudi Arabia, quite frankly, have long wanted this regime to finally be taken off the map, and I think it's high time it's happened. It's going to be a hard fight. No one thought this was going to be a 3-day campaign, but it's about time we take this threat off the table.
Is that why you think the war in Iran is happening right now? Is it because of regime change?
I think that's pretty clear. There's no question that what's happening in Iran today is a result of decades of exporting terror and evil all over the world. Let's not forget this regime started by taking our embassy hostage, and subsequently, over the subsequent decades, bipartisan. This isn't a Republican-Democrat issue, Kaitlan. This is an American issue. This is a Western free world issue. Whether it's the Iranian embassy in London that they took in 1980 after they took ours, or the 1983 barracks bombing, the Khobar Towers, the USS Cole, being the primary provider of cheap oil to China to allow China.
Yeah, no one is saying Iran has been doing good things. I mean, the Iranian leadership. But
well, there's actually quite a few Democrats and folks who are defending the Ayatollah's right to continue to rule and defending his existence. So I think
who is defending the Ayatollah?
Well, let's see. We've had Elizabeth Warren's former campaign manager out there literally chanting "Death to America" on stage yesterday.
I don't know who that is, but Elizabeth Warren is not defending the Ayatollah. But the reason
we've got Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib who are saying that this is wrong. Actually, with the New York Times publishing an obituary describing him as an avuncular cleric.
I think that was the Washington Post. But again, that's not a lawmaker. That's not a Democrat who is saying that this is what they did. But the reason I ask why this is happening is because we hear a bunch of different reasons from the administration. It doesn't seem like there's anyone settled on one reason. I mean, you just said regime change. Secretary Heggs had said this morning it's not a regime change war.
I think the reason you're hearing so many varied reasons is the varied threats this regime presents. You heard about taking out their Navy. Their Navy has been used to shut down the Red Sea, the Straits of Hormuz, Suez Canal, the Houthi rebels, which are an extension of a militant group of Iran. You've got Hezbollah, which has been using its northern border with Israel to constantly pressure Israel, and frankly, any Western presence in the Middle East. Hamas, of course, is an attack arm of Iran. You've got their medium-range ballistic missiles, their ICBMs, their nuclear arsenal, their international money laundering campaign for any terrorist organization, and even drug dealing groups. So I think the reason you're hearing different reasons is not because no one's decided what reason it should be, Kaitlan. It's because Iran has so many different threat vectors that attack the Western world, to include the U.S., that to effectively restrain their ability to continue to cause chaos, we have to attack all those vectors.
So does that mean the war doesn't end until every single one of those things is eliminated?
Well, you've got the tentacles of the octopus coming out in order to
that's kind of a yes or no question. Is it once the regime's gone and their naval capability and all of their missiles and any nuclear desires?
Well, I think the likelihood of each one of those tentacles continuing to carry out the policies of this terrorist regime is pretty unlikely if the regime's gone, or if the regime has chosen, hey, we're going to change direction. But I think that's pretty unlikely. For 46 years, obviously, we've only really had 2 major leaders of this theocracy over the past half century. But this theocracy has been very clear that death to America, death to Israel. We will export terror in the most brutal way possible, torturing our victims to death, whatever it takes, torturing our own people, killing tens of thousands of our own people. So
again, no one is defending Iran's leadership. But I think the question is, if you can't clearly articulate why this started, how do you tell people how it's ending?
How do you not clearly articulate how it started? 1983, 1989, 1980.
I don't remember
vote,
hearing
so.
any Republicans say we should vote for Donald Trump because he's going to go to war with Iran for those reasons. I mean, the president actually ran on not going to war with Iran.
So every single policy decision a president makes has to be the centerpiece of a campaign speech. I think.
Well, I think if you say you're not going to do something and then you do it, I mean, a lot of the president's big allies are saying they're pretty worried about what's actually happening in Iran right now.
Well, I think the reality is America first foreign policy means we're going to stop sending tens and hundreds of billions of dollars to countries that want to kill us. We're going to stop letting a country that murders our people all the time keep doing it. So at what point is enough? At what point are we going to say you are no longer allowed to fire on our ships? You're no longer allowed to start wars in Israel, slaughter 1,200 people in a day. You can no longer launder money for terrorist groups. I mean, the policy towards Iran for the last 46 years essentially has been, we're going to keep giving you money. Just please be nice to us and stop killing people. And it hasn't worked very well. So I think it's pretty clear at this point a change in tack is needed.
Do you support boots on the ground if the president decides that's necessary?
I don't think it's wise. I don't think that's what anyone's planning. I think the reality is decapitating the regime is the number one objective. That, as I said, will have a number of threat vectors, whether it's the fleet, whether it's nukes, whether it's ICBMs, medium range, or taking out proxy groups, whether it's Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, or the remnants of Hamas in Gaza. But weakening all those different vectors makes it harder for that regime to stay in place. And what we are seeing is a lot of organic support inside Iran. Unfortunately, so many of them have been killed over the last couple of months. But hopefully that organic support reaches the point where they can topple their own government and in place their own, hopefully, self-governing system to succeed this.
Do you think the president should help them?
Absolutely.
What would that look like?
Well, there's a number of different ways to do it. I mean, there's a lot of unconventional warfare tactics we have to help support an organic uprising within Iran. That's been going on for the last several months. That this isn't something we have to start from scratch. The Iranian people have made clear, a large portion of them, that they're ready for the theocracy to go. And we can support that in a lot of different ways, from communications to funding to weapons, should they need it.
Senator Tim Sheehy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So Tim Sheehy doesn't seem to be quite as stupid as Mark Wayne Mullen is. That would be pretty difficult to do, because I think the only senator who rivals Mark Wayne Mullen in stupidity is Tommy Tuberville. So at least this guy Tim Sheehy is not quite that stupid. He just seemed to be just as big a pile of garbage as what Mark Wayne Mullen is. So I want to go through a few points here that he brought up. The first one was about Democrats cheering on the Ayatollah. And you know, Kaitlan Collins says, "Who?" "Well, you know, blah, blah, blah." And he brings up Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. And he doesn't say that they are cheering on the Ayatollah, or were cheering on the Ayatollah, or felt that the Ayatollah should be in power, but that they said this was a wrong action. Well, guess what, scumbag? The vast majority of the American people think that this was a wrong action, and is the wrong action. So, does that mean that 70–80% of the American people are cheering on the Ayatollah? I don't think that's what Tim Sheehy means. So, that's a BS point number one. He got a little bit mixed up on his talking point. He said it's 46 years that Iran has been on this reign of terror, when everybody knows it's 47 years, because that's what Trump has been saying. And that's what America's dumbest senator Mark Wayne Mullen said the other day to Kaitlan Collins, and P. Kegg's breath said that, and on and on and on. So it's 47 years. So he needs to get his points right there, and not 46 years. But within that 46 years, his reasoning for why that we needed to go to war with Iran was 1980, 1983, 1989. You'd think maybe he could find some instances that were within the last year or two. Again, no one in America outside of these warmongers, these scumbag piles of garbage, like Tim Sheehy, viewed Iran as any threat to the United States, because they aren't and they weren't. He talked about the America First movement being not giving money to this regime that harms us. How about giving billions and billions to the tune of about $300 billion to a country that is supposedly our ally in the Middle East, whose leader has wanted this for 440 years? We're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu. How about not giving money to them, who have dragged us into this war along with Donald Trump, this war of choice that the American people do not want? And I liked when Kaitlan Collins grilled him about whether or not this is a regime change. And Tim Sheehy said, "Well, that's, hard to say, because there's a bunch of different reasons for this, and varied threats by Iran." That was just an answer that, very much like the dear leader Donald Trump, that was very much a kid doing a book report for a book that he didn't actually read response from Tim Sheehy. A bunch of BS. I like what Kaitlan Collins did here, because she continued to grill this guy. She did the same thing with Mark Wayne Mullen. He got all flustered because he has about 2 brain cells. This guy maybe is for Tim Sheehy, but he got flustered as well. These guys don't stand up to reason questions because there's no reason for this war other than the dear leader wants it. 47 years or 46 years in the case of Tim Sheehy. He throws out, why didn't Donald Trump do anything about this in his first term? And would Tim Sheehy he have cheered this on if Joe Biden would have been one to invade Iran? I bet he wouldn't have. But if Iran was a threat, this major threat that they're all claiming, all of the MAGA morons are all claiming that Iran has been this massive threat to the United States since for the last 47 years, then they should have been pushing for Joe Biden to do it. And they should have been pushing for Donald Trump to have done it in his first term. And really, since he didn't do it in his first term, by their reasoning, by their logic that Iran was this imminent threat to the United States, they should have wanted anybody but Donald Trump in 2020 and 2024. It doesn't, you know why now? What is the reason that the United States should be dragged into this war with Iran now? But of course, they can't give a reason because it's just because my daddy said so. And my daddy's daddy, the person really pulling the strings, said so. But let me know what you think about this. Do you feel like Kaitlan Collins more than held her own against this mega Tim Sheehy? I believe that she did. She asked some pointed questions that he wasn't prepared to really answer. And another thing when she asked about boots on the ground, well, he acted like he was opposed to that. But it looks like that's imminent. There are a lot of reports that are saying it's going to be boots on the ground and very soon. I guarantee you this pile of garbage, this scumbag, Tim Sheehy, and all the other mega morons will be cheering that on as well. But let me know in the comments what you think. Are you on the side of Tim Sheehy? Are you on the side of Kaitlan Collins? Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I am Chris on Culture, and I'll see you in the next.